Welcome back, everybody, to Real Talk, Real Topics. We have a very special episode tonight with our host, Gordon Watt, being interviewed today. And we will be speaking also with a special guest, Raymond Torres, and we'll be talking on our topic, prison politics, penalties, and house rules behind bars. We're going to give you guys an insight as to what prison life really is. Without the cameras, we're just going to be giving it to you real. Before we get started, let me remind you guys what Real Talk Youth Impact Program is about. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that takes members of the community that have been incarcerated and are willing to share their stories with the youth of this community in hopes of changing one life. Along with that, we have parenting classes with licensed professional counselors. If upon graduation, the child fits the criteria of a 2.0 grade point average, 2 volunteer hours a month, and the parents volunteer an hour and a half a month, then they qualify for a $150 stipend per month for any after-school activity of their choice if the funding is available. But since COVID-19 has hit the streets, we've had to hit the airwaves. So we've been starting this show, Real Talk, Real Topics, to bring you guys some real topics, experiences, life experiences, and things that we've been through, just to give you guys a little insight. So today, our very special guest, who is typically our host, Mr. Gordon Watt. And we have our other guest who's going to help me co-host today, Raymond Torres. So Gordon, if you can go ahead and introduce yourself to us, give us a short snippet, and then we'll go ahead and get an understanding of why you're with Real Talk, what inspired you to write your book, and how long you did in prison.
All right, absolutely. It's just a funny feeling for me being the interviewee instead of the interviewer. But yeah, my name is Gordon Watt. We represent Real Talk Youth Impact Program. Since COVID hit, we decided to go on this wave version, digital version, so that we can always refer back to you. But originally from Honolulu, Hawaii, I've been incarcerated for about half my life. Just in the Fed alone, I had a 168-month sentence. Just got released March 15 of 2012. And prior to that, I'd had numerous state cases. The reason for being part of this program is it goes to a family issue, guys, because a lot of times, in Hawaii, a lot of people, we all use drugs. And I was the supplier for my sister's habit that ultimately was her demise, and my mom then is paying the consequences for it, because now my nieces are messed up, my sister is messed up, and it weighs heavy on my heart to know that I was the cause for a lot of damage just in my family alone. Like Raymond hit it last week, I betrayed my family in that sense, instead of being a big brother. You mean in a way that most people supposed to be doing. But understand that a lot of the times, it comes from a family household, and the reason for fast fame, money, because my mom wrote a letter to, when I took the program, they have what they call one of those letters where they explain all the destruction. And I remember her saying in her letter, I just wanted to have the fast life because I didn't have it at home, right? That's the reason why I joined the program, so I could help every kid I touch, every kid I come and communicate with, every parent that I talk to. I pour my heart and soul to them because I look at them as, this is where I can redeem myself for all the wrongdoings. And that's why I wrote the book, right? Stop Tripping Over Pennies. And it's actually dedicated to our program, right?
Nice.
Right. I mean, I wrote it for the Real Talk, the Youth Impact Program, because I wanted to follow Raymond's lead, because he wrote a book. So let me see if I could write a book. And so I wrote a book based on a guy from Atlanta gave me permission to model his books with my own stories. So that's what we did, guys. So that's what I'm up to. And since then, I've been working at one of the premier hotels. In fact, I see Raymond now and then on the drive. And I've been the poster child for, until this day, I think so. I'm the only ex-felon that walked from the halfway house to get the job where I'm at right now, because they said, don't even apply at the Strip. you'll never get a job on the strip. I was the first one to have keys in hand, where they didn't even believe. They sent two case managers to verify my employment. That's how serious it was.
Nice. Nice. So the title of your book is Stop Tripping Over Pennies.
Correct.
What made you want to write a book like that, and just give us a little bit about what the book is about?
Well, understand, stop tripping over pennies is everything that we've done with us three right here. We all made money into the big money, but it's pennies compared to what you lose, the consequences that you offer, all the cars, the houses, the girls, the fame, the glory. Each one of you can relate. Even for our viewers, they probably could relate later on, if they're hearing this on the podcast, that they can relate that when everything happens, all the money in the world not going to be able to get you in that situation that you're in.
Yeah.
All the money in the world is all pennies compared to the time you're going to be losing, all the growth, all the birthdays you're going to be missing, all the family members dying while you're inside there, all your loved ones, people that you're going to be missing for the next 10, 15, 18, 20, 25, 30 years. You're going to be missing all of that. It's pennies compared to what you thought you was balling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, for us three to be here sitting and talking, we're kind of like the blessed ones that actually have moved on and know the value of having that amount of gratitude that we have going on right now, because we've been touched.
Yeah.
We've been touched. We've honestly been touched. And it would be a disservice to people listening, watching on this live, on the replay, on the review later on. It would be a disservice for us to have all our wisdom and not instill it to these kids or their parents that could ultimately change their lives. And that's why I wrote the book.
Nice. Yeah, there's I see your point in that. There's a lot that you can't put a price to. There's, I always give people this example. My mother passed from Alzheimer's, and I used to tell people I used to live my life to stack up memories right here, because nobody can take that from you, right?
Right.
And when I'd be in my jail cell, I would imagine all the things I've been, all the places I've been, money I spent. But as I saw my mom passing away with no memories, nothing to take with her, I said, dang, man, I've been living my life the wrong way and putting value to the wrong things, right? And that's what made me start Real Talk, was that I now want to leave memories in people's hearts. And if I die with Alzheimer's and I have nothing to take with me, guess what? I'm leaving behind the most beautiful thing, and that's love in people's heart. And that could never erase, that can never be taken away, right? So that's, I get the concept, stop tripping over pennies, because a lot of us do. We get out and we're like, man, I want to get that car. As soon as you get out, you're not making the money you were making. And then you start tripping over the stuff that you thought you had before, right?
Right. I mean, Raymond's a perfect example too, when his situation and his thing was going on, because a lot of he when Raymond talks physically, he gets emotional about it. We all get emotional about our pain, our sorrows, the betrayal, and all for what? At the end of it all for what? Right? To ask for money from your family to get sent to you so you can call them every weekend to buy ice cream. All for what? I mean, it kind of hit me 5 years into my sentence. And no, I take that back, because I was at FCI Lompoc. I just broke my leg playing softball, because I ended up punishing somebody in the bathroom by the library. So in the middle of the championship game, one of the other racers came and slid into me. That kind of like broke my fib, and I was famous for that, because I had a call to make. Right, I actually had to make a call, because they go, was this gang retaliation or whatever else? I said no, it's just an accident in the softball field. It's just one of those things, and you think this is how it's going to end? Is this how I'm stuck in a wheelchair? I got two guys on the side of me that's for that race in another dorm, and I'm thinking to myself, if it kicks off, I'm throwing in the towel, because that's the day I'm going to go. And this is with a broken leg, popping ibuprofen, because they don't give you medicine.
Ibuprofen and take a walk around the track.
Yeah. And that's how I changed. And like Raymond said in one of his talks, he's been involved in a lot of with the youth while he was in prison. We never had that opportunity, but the minute I had the chance, I reached out. I was teaching a class at the Las Vegas Rescue Mission, and that's when I met Miss Cherie, where she was starting up this, and Raymond was already in there.
Nice. So Gordon, you touched a little bit on your case and why you got busted. I want to hear a little bit more about that. So you were dealing meth.
Right.
Um, you you did the thing that we end up doing, and you end up selling to people that you love, right?
Hmm.
And that being your sister. How has that affected you? I know it's fired you up to do the right thing, right? You're using it as a good fuel, right?
Right.
But it's real talk, and I know that affects you some way, some shape, in some form, right?
Okay.
It has to touch you in some way. Are you over that guilt? Have you pushed through it, or are you still dealing with that? And then the second question to that is, what kind of relationship do you have with your sister now?
I'm to be honest with you, my mom damn see my sister right now, she's jacked up.
Yeah,
I mean, my nieces are jacked up. But she has 4 kids. Two of them are on pretty much on the right track right now, and they always used to look up to me, and they always use me as an example because they call me Uncle Sonny. So they say, if they tell their mom, if Uncle Sonny can do it, why can't you do it? And one of them just changed around. She's got a job, she's got a life together, everything. She's 22 years old,
amen.
and she was about that life. Now, as far as the guilt, as
Okay.
we've been since working along you gentlemen here on a more personal level, the guilt is not as bad as it used to be before because I know in that situation, I might be able to use that story, that situation to help thousands more
Yeah,
versus dwelling on one and she's at the age where she's like 4 years younger than me. And I'm 52. I just made 52. And happy anniversary right there, Mr. Morales.
oh yeah, happy anniversary to my wife.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, we keep it light. So it's like, as far as getting over the guilt, I've gotten over the guilt of doing that. I've made amends with one of my daughters, right? So it's like everything has moved forward, and it's something that I attain to the man up above, working with
Amen.
you gentlemen, working with the program, and just giving back to the community as much as I can.
That's good. So Raymond, do you have anything you want to ask
Yeah,
Gordon regarding that?
yeah, Gordon. So since our top is prison politics, penalties, and house rules
Uh huh.
behind bars, I think I'll go into asking Gordon what his experience. We all have different experiences when going into the
Correct.
prison system. Those for the first, and I'm talking about your first time into the system. Um, a lot of times, if it is your first time, and I'm not talking about the county jail, I'm not talking about getting pulled over and staying the night
Hmm.
in a dry cell. I'm talking about when the first time that you're looking at a long sentence. Um, I think I want to share with the audience of what was your experience? What was your thought? I think a little each of us can probably touch on that. Entering into the system, not knowing about the prison politics or the penalties or the rules, and what was a eye opener for you, Gordon, when you came into the system and you realize that, hey, this is real, this is a reality, this is something that,
Absolutely.
this is a life and death situation. When it just
Right.
says, this is not, it's not a game.
I knew. So, me coming from Hawaii, they didn't have a detention center. Okay.
Hmm.
So they ship us all out. Right. I knew I was screwed when I went. This is prior to hitting the big yard, right? They ship us out. I knew I was screwed when in 2 weeks I didn't know where I was. I ended up in a pod when nobody spoke English. I'm from Hawaii. And in fact, this was 2001, 9/11, because, and that's just prior. And I knew right there, I was never getting back home at that moment in time. And I found out that was Lerdo, that was Kern County. That's where I'm going from MDC, San Bernardino, Glen Helen, end up in Lerdo. Now, when when you go back to court after they built and we went back, then I got sentenced, and then I ended up in Lompoc facility for almost about 9.5 years.
Mhm.
When I rode that bus and I came up and I seen that yard, I was like, now you really screwed, right? Because that's the feeling, when, and I'm until this day, me and the guy I was shackled with, he's club a club brother, right? So he's 6'8", and I'm shackled to him like this,
Mhm.
walking out the bus, going down, right? So it's like he was my ride mate all the way down. We remain good friends. He's out here in Vegas and stuff. But it's like that's when I knew I was screwed, right? Because understanding the politics, the
But
rules.
let me interrupt you for a minute. What was your first thought when you came to the yard, when you found out about the prison rules? I want to know, what was your first experience where you did they approach you on the yard? Did somebody sit you down and says, "Look, these are the rules. These are what you," or did you just little by little you experience them and you're like, okay, you've seen somebody get in a wreck for doing this and you're like,
Mhm,
okay, you can't do that? Or
mhm.
was it through experience or through somebody actually sitting you down and prepping you and saying, look, this is what you can't do, this is you can't talk? Did you, I take the audience into
Okay,
of your experience
absolutely.
of what was an eye opener to, as far as, okay, there's rules here, that
Oh yeah,
there's the guards rules and then there's the
right,
inmates rules,
right.
and maybe share some of the consequences with it.
Absolutely. So when I hit the yard, the first thing I did, I was kind of it was kind of different for me because they knew I was coming.
Mm-hmm.
You
They
know
always
how
know you're coming.
they always know you're coming. They know your
Yeah,
number, they know your name, and
yeah.
you already have something on the streets. So some of the boys came up to me, hit me up. They was waiting for me by the fence, right? And then as soon as I got into intake, got everything, got settled, got my rag, the boys came up to me and explained to me everything right there, where you can sit, what you can do, what time we're going to go work out, what time you can go out on the yard, right? We all going to eat at this certain table, right? And certain things where you ain't going to be associated with this person, this race, this situation, right? If anything happens, go see so and so, this and that, or whoever's in that pod right now, so we can handle it, or we can talk about it, so that as things move on, a lot of times when you hit a yard, you're going to have politics, you're going to
Yeah.
have rules. It's either you're going to get with the rules, or they're just going to smash you in the head right there and roll you up, right? So it's like, if there's like for some of us, there's a no-brainer, right?
Right.
But when you're fresh, you're new, you're fresh fish, you're fresh meat, and you think you're gonna be alone, you got something else coming, because you're gonna have to choose. Fortunately, I'm from the island, so we kind of like have a really good relationship for every place in yard, different from, say, both of you guys, right?
Yeah,
Right.
you
Right.
got to get like a pass, a carte blanche. I mean,
Right.
Right.
yeah,
Now for Julian, on the other hand, if those who don't know, this is for the audience, that if you're Latino and you're coming into the prison system and you don't know who's who, you can be in a lot of trouble.
Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And
There's go ahead, Ray.
there's now let's just talk about. I'm going to touch on California. You got the Southsiders, you got the Norteños, you got so many different gangs and so many different areas, but the most two big divided ones are the North and the South. And then, of course, you got the Bulldogs in the middle, and you got other ones, but the majority is the North and the South. Now, if you go to Texas, I'll let Julian take over on that. Name how many different gangs you got there. Julian's from
Yeah,
Texas.
so you got the Mexican mafia, Texas. You got the Syndicate, the Aztecas, Texas Chicano Brotherhood, Tri City Bombers. You got the Charcos. You got the Tango Blast. You got the Tangos. You got Tango West. There's so many gangs, so many different affiliations, and there's so many rules that as a fresh fish, you'll get eaten up. And then people that think they're gonna go in and I'm just gonna do my time as we call them neutrons. That's the
Right.
term we use, right? Um, I'm just gonna be a neutron. I'm just gonna be a neutron. But then you're forced to take a side just by your race, regardless.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, whether you're a gangbanger or not, you're gonna end up gangbanging in prison. Like,
And it's based on your location. Like if you're
yeah.
from Southern California, if you're from a certain part of Texas. Now, is Texas all together in one car
So
in
when
the
I was
prison system?
in the feds, so like okay, so this is the messed up part about the feds, right? Is
Right.
in Texas, we're all beefing. All right, so I'll give you an example with my prison gang. My prison gang's from the Midwest. So I was down in Arizona. So in Arizona, there ain't that many Latin kings. There's one Latin king, me. But there's something called the Midwest Coalition. If we were incarcerated anywhere near Kansas, Leavenworth, Duluth, Yankton, Fort Dix, New Jersey, we'd be killing each other. But since we're in Arizona, we formed the Midwest Coalition. So in prison politics, you have to keep your ear to the ground if you're traveling. And for those that don't know, the feds will pick you up in a plane, and you don't know what state you're in picking people up, and then they drop you off at a new prison, and you don't know where you're at until you get to the prison. So
Yeah.
Hmm.
you need to be on your P's and Q's if you're affiliated, if you're involved in politics, if you're trying to make a name for yourself in the federal system. It's different anywhere you go, because in some yards the paisas run under the border brothers, but in other yards the border brothers and the paisas smash each other. So it all depends where you land. So
Right.
you do have to be up on the prison Twitter to find out what's happening where, and where you're allowed to move. But the Texas cars are all separated, especially if you're from El Paso. Nobody likes El Pasoans. We've got a bad name out here. Even the coalitions that have been put together, like the Tangos and all that, they still exclude El Paso as a separate entity. So being from El Paso in the Texas state prison is a whole different beast as well.
Now, in the feds, let me touch on something. In the feds, you can be beefing, say, you're in California. You can be beefing with the Norteños. You can be beefing with the blacks. You can be beefing with the whites on one yard. Everybody gets rolled up and shipped out to D.C. Okay. Those who don't know about D.C., they don't like California.
Yeah.
They don't like. I don't think they like anybody.
No.
Yeah.
So the same people you were beefing with on the California yard, whether Norteños, whether blacks or whites, those people are going to have your back in D.C. You know why? Because they're all from California. You could be killing each other on the California yard.
Yeah.
When they throw you in D.C., because if you guys don't know about D.C., you guys should look up what the D.C. people are all about.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and I'm not gonna say it live on the air, but if you're walking that DC yard, you're better off taking flight on a correctional officer, on somebody, so they can lock you up. Because
Yeah.
if you're there by yourself, you're gonna be like a lamb walking into the freaking den of lions,
Right,
and
right, right.
it's serious business. And I don't care who you are. I don't care how bad you are on the street. I don't care if you're a killer on the street. I don't care if you said that you'll go out freaking in a knife fight, stabbing. That's fine, okay? Because the prison is full of those guys that have the
Yes.
same mentality. So just think about that. You're just one. Imagine walking onto a yard with dudes like that, and some of them are not getting out, and they don't care if
Oh
they get
yeah.
another body under their belt. They don't care if they take another life. They don't, and they'll do all kinds of sick stuff to you.
Oh yeah.
So these are the types of things, part of the politics, penalties, and prison rules that we're talking about. As far as when I remember they shipped me to what's that holdover place over there in Des Moines? Was it Des Moines, Iowa, where they
Yeah.
have the holdover?
Like the CCA or the
Yeah, but
MTT.
the transfer place where they have the planes go, that was well, Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma. Oh,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oklahoma. Oklahoma.
So Oklahoma City, I had just came from Victorville. I was transferred. I was a holdover in Victorville. They had it all locked down because somebody got cut up and over a basketball game. A referee made a bad call, so they chopped this guy up and they killed him. And so they had everybody on lockdown, and I was just a holdover with a bunch of us. So now I'm in defensive mode. I'm in combat mode. They sent me over there to Oklahoma City as a transfer. First thing I get, I'm looking for something to make. I'm looking for a weapon. As soon as
Right.
I get in the pod, I'm like looking for something.
Yep.
And I see some guys. I don't know if they're paisas. I don't know if they're Texas Syndicate. Okay, I
Right.
see one that kind of looks like a homie, and and so I approached them, right? And I'm like, hey, what's up? I'm like, who's running this pod, and what's going
Right.
on? Is there beef with the blacks? Is there beef? And they're looking at me like, what the hell's wrong with this fool?
Yeah.
Right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, they're like, no, it's cool right here. Ain't none of that going on. And I'm like, are you, I'm like, okay, these guys
Yeah.
playing me. My bunkies, a paisa. How do I know they ain't trying to, So I'm like sleeping with one eye open, one eye closed. It's just that whole mentality when you're around that environment. You don't know if these people are trying to work you or trying to play you. You got someone that looks like a border brother, or he could be somebody that you don't know who's affiliating yourself, but he looks like somebody.
Yeah. Then
And so,
everybody's tattoos look the same.
Yeah.
right. So
Oh, that's a whole nother
yeah,
thing, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So even the tattoos. Let's talk
Right.
about the
Oh,
tattoos,
let's go into
Julian.
that one.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So that was something that the guys and I were talking about over the weekend as we were talking about this podcast and what we were going to address. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for you younger folks out there, you're getting these tattoos and you're coming into a subculture that has kind of already been claimed, right? But now since it's trendy and it's all in fashion to get tattoos, if you ever end up going to prison, you're gonna get ran up on for the wrong tattoo, whether it's a crown, whether it's a star,
Yeah.
a Mayan calendar, even an Indian. Just you like Indian culture tattoos. It all means something. It signifies something to somebody, and
Right.
even down to a Texas Longhorn tattoo, to a
Yeah.
Houston Astros tattoo,
Yeah.
and your sports team, whatever it may be. And people do get killed and skinned. I've seen people skinned alive for a tattoo. They tried to skin off my stars that I have on my legs when I got to the Texas state system, because in the Fed we are a prison gang in Texas state. You don't hear about Latin Kings. So when I got to the Texas state prison, that's the Houston Tangos star. That's their star, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how am I going to bow down and check in and tell them, yeah, I'm going to scribble off my stars and tattoo over them? I did what, like how Ray said, first thing you do when you get to a yard, and that's for anybody that's out there trying to get to prison. Because when you're out there drug dealing, doing what you're doing, you're just trying to get there. So anybody out there trying to get to prison, they walk in my cell and they say, take off those stars. First thing I did was I was already shanked up, because that's the first thing you do when you get anywhere. And I told them, look, man, y'all can come get it like Tyson, or y'all can leave me alone. But I'm not doing that. I ain't with that. So outnumbered. They're like the paisas in there. They're just and they handle me up, but I didn't go down like no girl, and they didn't take off my stars, and I still got them now. But even that will get you in trouble. And then Oklahoma City will get you in a lot of trouble with your tattoos. And as soon as you get there, whoever's running the tanks always strip down. Let me see what you got, right? And then at that point, you're like, one, I'm not stripping down for nobody unless it's a police with a badge, dog. So
Right.
you got me messed up. So already you're fighting anywhere you go, just if you got tattoos.
And even once you come into the prison system and you have gang tattoos, that follows you wherever you go.
No matter.
That follows you wherever you go. When you go from facility to facility, you're going to be okay. SIS is like
Mm-hmm.
the FBI of the prison system. SIS. They're going to pull you in. They're going to take pictures of you. They're going to strip you down. They're going to document all your tattoos. They're putting you under gang watch already. Once
Yep.
you go from facility to facility, the first thing they're going to do is, okay, we already got your record. We know you're in a gang. We don't want no issues with you on this yard. And they're going to take pictures with you again over and over and over again. And there's times when I was on my way to I was actually on my way to freaking Sheridan, Oregon, and
Oh wow.
you got to go to once I
Hey, I heard
got
that
there.
place was nice. What's the
Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
Okay.
and yeah, I mean it was pretty nice for a prison. So I'm going through the processing, and of course SIS interviews everybody about gangs and this and that, and they put the people that are from Southern California, they had them in one color jumpsuit, and then people from Northern, they had them in the other color. They put them in separate tanks because they know that they don't want to put them together. Well, they put me in the wrong color.
Yeah.
Nobody came to
No,
talk to me until the lab. They put me in the wrong color, and I don't know if they try to do that on purpose, right?
Yeah,
But
probably.
they
but
do. They do.
but one of the other SIS caught it. He looked at my paperwork. Where you from? He goes, you from California, right? He goes, yeah. He goes, man. He goes, you should have said something. He goes, they almost fucked up. I go, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, you're in the wrong color. They're gonna put you in the wrong tank. I'm like, what do you want me to do? What do you want to say? But
Yeah.
these are the things that
The
you got
small
to be
things, right?
aware of. Yeah, you
Yeah,
got to be aware
small
of
things. Yeah.
that you could end up in the wrong tank. So let's just say you have a Los Angeles Dodgers tattoo,
Yeah.
right?
Right. That's big.
Okay, let's
Right.
say you got a Dodgers tattoo or Raiders tattoo. They know you're from California. You got a California tattoo in the prison system, and say it's on your neck, on your arm, where it can be seen. And they send you to DC or they send you to Texas or
Ooh.
that's the problem is, how are you going to get around that? How are you going to, I mean, so you're going to have to do what you got to do. You're going to have to either get your shanks ready or you got to know you got to know what's coming. And a lot of people never been to prison. They're not in the mindset of, look, oh, if I get this tattoo, if I ever end up in prison in the feds, that, I might end up in DC. I can end up back east somewhere where they don't like California or whatever. So these are things that people first time inmates coming into the prison system, they're not aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to tell a story. My first case was out of state in Kansas State, and I went to a prison, and I was young, and I'll make this story really short. I went to the white pile and I was smoking a cigarette, and this big black guy walked up to me and was like, "Yo, little homie," and that's because he was being nice. He knew I was a fresh fish. He said, "Yo, little homie, we don't do that smoking shit here in the white pile."
Yeah. That's
Me being young, not knowing about respect, not knowing about prison hierarchy, and thinking I'm big and tough. I'm 18. I'll give you them hands, but this is a grown man I was dealing with.
yeah.
And I said, you got me fucked up talking to me like that. We went back to the unit after rec time, and he called me in the shower, and he knocked the shit out of me. And he said, you're gonna learn the rules of this place, or you're gonna have a hard time. And that was my wake up call to really say, wow, I'm way far away from home. I ain't got no backup up here. I'm in Kansas. I'm okay. I'll follow the rules. But that's what put me hip to game was there is politics. There's a hierarchy, and somebody's running. And you learn. And
Yeah.
you learn.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
even in the prison system, like for me, I'll give you my experience. When you're raised outside and you're coming into the system and you see your homies there, they're gonna all school you. They're gonna be like, "Hey, homie, this is what we can do." This. So as you come along, you learn, and a lot of times they give you a heads up, leadway. You got cousins and family that are in and out of prison, and you learn even before you go in. It's kind of like passed on from generation to generation the rules. But then when you get there,
Yeah.
and you experience things like somebody cutting off in the milk line,
Oh.
Yeah.
and then you see somebody almost getting their life taken. I mean, their life basically taken from
Yeah.
them for cutting somebody off, and you're like, man, was his life really? I mean, was it really that bad for somebody to cut him off in the milk line for him to stab the shit out of him?
Yeah.
And then you got to think of the mentality of the people that
Right. I mean,
prison is full of respect. And I tell these kids all
yeah.
the time,
Yeah.
if you cannot respect your parents and you come to prison and you have trouble respecting other inmates, then you're going to have issues.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, even
Because
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ray. Go ahead.
even for like for instance, the prison system is built about respecting one another. We were talking about this too. I want to touch on this with both you guys. That even so, your mind is almost being transformed. Like you're coming from the free world into the prison system. So you're transformed of, okay, always be on your toes, respect other people. You know what? Show each other, don't steal all the prison rules.
Yeah.
Protect yourself at all times. I mean, there's so many different rules. But when you come out of the prison system and you get back into society, it takes a while to adjust because we're still in that mindset. And we were talking
Right.
about this the other day, and I want to touch
Right.
on this. That
Oh, absolutely.
like when I came out of the prison system, and I'm not, I might be shopping, I might be doing this, and somebody, tries to cut in front of you in line, and you're like, man, this guy disrespecting me, man,
Mhm.
and you're like,
Yep.
you're boiling, and in
Yep.
your mind, you're like,
Yep.
I want to go tell him, I want to go knock him upside the head, I
Yeah.
want to go do something, and this guy's not even realizing what he's doing. They're just like going through life,
Right.
but even for us, it takes time to readjust. And I think Julian shared a story the other day. I would like for him to
Yeah,
touch on that when somebody had bumped into you.
yeah. So
Yeah.
there's been a few incidents, and one thing I want to rehash on was there's punishment in prison. It's funny, we go to prison for breaking rules, but then we get to prison, and then we all want to become shot callers or key holders and want to implement all these rules, right? So it's so funny the way prison works. We're out here breaking rules, but then we go to prison and make extra rules on top of the top rules, right? But then, to touch on what Raymond was saying, if you break those rules, there are consequences in prison. And now, this goes back to decompressing when you come out.
Right.
Because in prison, when you're an enforcer or when you're a key holder or when you're one of the goons on the team, and when there's a situation, the way you handle it is by violence, right?
Mhm.
So imagine for 13 years, every situation you come up to, any altercation, any disagreement, anything that happens that you don't come to agreement with, it turns to violence, right? So coming out of prison now, we're expected to go straight to a Walmart, go to a bar, go be man. I'll tell the story of I was at the Walmart. This lady ran into me with her cart, and it was an older lady, and it made me get so upset. I went off on her in the store, called her all kinds of names, but because I blacked out because I went to that,
Went to that place.
it switched, right?
Yeah.
It switched, and the same thing when I first got out, and I'd be at bars, and there'd be a drunk guy, and he'd be all up on me, and then he would touch me and put his arm on my shoulder, right? So this is another thing people in prison that people don't know. In prison, you don't touch.
No.
It's weird because when you get out and you hug somebody, it's like it's even that strange and different to get accustomed to, right? So when you're at a bar and someone's drinking and they touch your shoulder and you're just like, and you want to take flight, but that's not the way it works. So it's like coming out of the ocean and you have to decompress.
Mhm.
And I think they should give us an opportunity outside of the halfway house, like
A decompression time.
Yes. Decompression time is much needed, right?
Because it's true. It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Gordon, how long did it take you to decompress and get back?
For me, it took even until this day right now. There's still remnants of it, but it took at least a good 2-3 years to decompress because I remember when I got here in Vegas, when I got released, I went to the halfway house. I had long hair. I had long hair all the way down to my butt because we always was braided up, right? So pre-trial, I'm watching TV. He wants to put his shoes on my hair,
Whoa.
drying. I stand up.
Whoa.
I'm fresh out. I didn't even get my passes to go out yet. We go take him to the bathroom, and everybody was telling me, like some of the homies, Raymond's homies, was telling me like it's not even worth it. So I just let him go. It's like when you get the exact same thing Raymond was just saying. When you get to yard, I told him the same thing. If you don't have respect or you ain't gonna do something small, maybe you get to come out alive. If not, I feel sorry for you. I'm just trying to show you way. So I let it cool down. But even like for me at my workplace, right? I deal with guests, I deal with customers. It still boils down, but it always comes to my head, like Raymond said, or you, Julian. They really don't know because the world moved on so fast behind us, and we've been stuck in that bubble for so long.
Yeah.
That that's where the word institutionalized came from. And I truly believe that it's harder to decompress, like you said, right? At certain times because we're so used to a certain way. We're so used to structure. We start certain to rules. And when somebody that, like you said, Julian, even Raymond, when something happens to the point where they do something because it's not because they don't know, do I hold back or I just give them a piece of my mind right there? Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Now, understand, like even Raymond had a story about one of his boys hitting himself on the butt, right? And that's something that even with the touching is like, okay, now we're kind of accustomed, but there's always that little piece in us.
What about
always
the
can
B
refer back.
word?
Huh?
The
The B
what?
word. When I got out of prison, all my homies were using the B word, like loosely calling each other
The B
Yeah.
word?
the B word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
no. I don't
yeah,
even try
that's
to use that.
blackout mode for me.
Yeah, I don't even try
That
to
the
use that
P
word.
word, the P word, the F word, the B word. You call me any of those, and you better be ready to fight because
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And
me too. Yeah,
people don't
no.
realize that. Yeah, if they call you, and you're talking about the bitch word, right?
yeah,
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 yeah. I was like,
Yeah,
the
yeah. I
B,
mean, people
yeah.
don't understand that like in prison, those are fighting words. Somebody calls you a bitch, which is a
Oh,
female dog.
yeah.
Those are fighting words. And the same thing in the street. Is somebody you got people in the street that sex play each other, jokingly, and to me, that's that's like whoa, this goes, and if you got a friend that's telling you like that,
Oh,
and to me, I pull them to the side and I tell them straight up, look, I don't know what kind of games you play, but to me that's disrespect. Boom,
yeah,
boom, boom. And I shared with Gordon and Julian the other day that I have a friend of mine that he crossed the line with certain words and touchy feely, and I had to hit him.
yeah,
And but it's when you're telling somebody and you're warning them, and it has nothing to do with prison. I don't think it has to do with prison. I think it has to do with being a man and being respected, because nobody wants to feel disrespected. But at the same time, it might have built up because of me being in prison. Because like you're like, whoa, I'm not
yeah.
gonna let. I don't care if you're my friend. If you're my friend, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna warn you. Like, look,
yeah,
this
Right,
is gonna happen.
right, right.
And but I think part of that transitioning back into society, I think we do need to stop. We need to reflect those who have taken the RDAP on, okay, wait a minute, let me think about it. Let me count to 10. Let me
Right.
stop this. I
yeah,
mean, a situation for me was I took my son and my daughter, we went out to a club here in Vegas. And one of my son runs into his boys. He goes, "Oh, this is my pops. He just got out, and he did 18 years." And the guy's like, "What? You don't look that old." And he rubbed my head
What?
like that,
oh
No,
and I was like,
no,
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 "Whoa, bro!"
no,
I almost went
no.
off on him. Like, and my son's like, and I was like, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? It's like, man, I almost went off on him. And I swear for 2 days, I was still thinking about it. Like, I'm gonna go smash this youngster. And I'm like, but he didn't know. I
yeah.
mean, do I hold him accountable for it? You know what I'm
No,
I
saying?
it's just
mean,
a different culture. We
it's different,
Do
right?
I could have smashed him. I mean, we were at a club and I would have went to jail. I think I
yeah,
was still on probation still at the time, or I don't know.
Right.
But my daughter was visiting and she came from California. I was trying to show her a good time, and my son was there, and I had a couple friends there too. And I'm like, and all I kept thinking about the rest of the night is, man, I'm gonna go smash this guy. I'm gonna go freaking smash him. I'm gonna go up to him, and then I see my daughter dancing. I'm like, all right, maybe
Right.
not now, maybe not now.
Let me
So
ask
it's
you this.
like,
Let me ask you this, Julian Raymond. When something like that happens, what runs through your head?
disrespect.
No, like
To me,
what? Let me the thoughts that go through it, because when
oh
something like that happens to me, there's things that I have vision. This is what I'm gonna do to you. This and that. Boom. Something's gonna happen. I'm gonna this. What comes into your head in a blink of an eye? Because you've
I
been
wanted
trained.
to, I wanted to put him in the back of my trunk and take him
Okay,
for a
see,
ride.
that's
Cause
where I'm getting at, right? This is
yeah.
where
that's what I really wanted to do, honestly.
So my first instinct
right, right,
always
right.
in prison was whenever anyone got into a discussion with me and I knew that with me, once we started arguing, I know that the end result is one of us is gonna get really messed up, right?
Heard, yeah.
So my first instinct, and I would always envision it, and they're standing right in front of me, but my first instinct always is slap across their chest, grab them by the shirt, bring them in and headbutt. And I'd always imagine that. And
Okay.
that was always my first reaction was the minute they would say, and then, boom,
Boom.
and let's just go. And when I'm in
Good.
the street,
Drag him into the cell.
oh yeah, hey, so oh man, yeah, there's some
Thoughts, the
I
thoughts,
Hey,
right?
let's not get too far off now.
Oh,
Let's
okay. I'll feel it.
no, so some other things too. So and I know so like here in our county jail, there's a lot of rules and regulations and they're respected by whoever holds the county jail right now. And I won't name names, but their rules are are Trump, right? They trump all the other rules.
Mhm.
So with that comes a lot of what they call calentadas. So this some of
And
this
explain to them what that is to
so
the audience.
calentada is like, and it's different. So some of them do like 21-second beats, 13-second beat. It depends what gang, but you get a beat down. You can do you can even get punished to do like extra chores in there. There's all kinds of different things, right? But the simplest one is you get a beat down and then you have to hide your face for like a week. So you get beat up, and then two, you starve for a week.
Yeah,
Because
because
they don't.
Because you can't go to lunch and show your face. So, because then everyone gets in trouble. So, these are the things that happen in prison people don't talk about. But I ran into this problem, Ray and Gordon. I don't know if you guys have, but I've been at the store and I see people that I gave calentadas to.
Mm.
what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
No,
yeah, and
no.
I'm like, oh man, what the? And they're with their family, and I'm just like, wow, what is he gonna do? And it's always awkward. But have you guys ever ran into anyone in prison that you had to like what they call discipline violations? Every gang has a different name for it, right? Have you guys ever ran into anyone where you're like,
Oh,
oh
go
man,
ahead, Raymond. Go ahead, Raymond.
You know what I ran into, and this wasn't in prison. I ran into two guys when we got older that I grew up with in the same neighborhood, and I hadn't seen them in like freaking 20 years. And the first thing they bring up is, "Oh yeah, you remember when you kicked me in the face?" And I'm like, "And I don't remember. I don't remember." And the first thing I do is, "Hey, I apologize if I did that. Hey, you know what? I honestly I don't remember." And they're like, "Yeah, we were at this time," and I'm like, and so it's like, wow, okay. So and the thing is, you got to remember too that when you're in that type of lifestyle, when you're in that game, and you do harm to people, years later you could have moved on, you could have
yeah,
Oh
changed, you could be a different person, but some of these people still hold on to
oh
that.
yeah,
And
yes,
then they might come and get you 20, 30 years later,
yeah,
and you'll wonder like, man, what was that all about? Well,
yeah.
you forgot about it, but they didn't. And
that's why
then
I try not to forget anything I've
right,
done.
right,
For
exactly.
me,
So
that's why I moved out here to Vegas. Just in case, because
yeah,
I get people on Facebook all the time. Gordon, you don't remember me? And like, to tell you the truth, I don't remember half my life because it went so fast, and I was always gacked out anyway, right?
right, right,
Yeah,
And half
right.
the times I didn't know what I did, and then they would explain to me, you did this to somebody else, this and that. I'm like, and then the face you give, right, Julian? Like, oh, okay, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Oh, and it's
If
like
you
it's
say
just one of
so.
those things. And it was just easier for me to not go back home in a way because I want to give me a chance to start fresh. And
Right.
I think it was one of the best decisions I've made personally because
Mm.
it's so weird because a lot of my friends are still back doing the same crap, right? And it's
Yes.
Right.
so sad to see that they haven't moved on. Where this is where being part of this, if I could be some shining hope for somebody that's still back in the islands or anything else and it can spread over, why not it be me? Because I'm the perfect example of what can happen, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let me touch on so since we're still on the politics and penalties and then the house rules, in my book that I wrote, the chauffeur from federal prison to
Hmm.
celebrity chauffeur, there's a section in there, chapter 6. It says gladiator school.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So it talks about, and prison is gladiator school for those who grew up in gangs or who are involved in gangs, or even if you're not in a gang and you're just in the prison system under drug charges or whatever, it can become gladiator school for you. And then so I had wrote a list of 15 rules when you come into the prison system, and I just want to go ahead and touch on them. There was unwritten prison rules
Mm.
and proper etiquette, for inmates who are coming into the system. I got rule number 1 is protect yourself at all times.
Yes.
Rule number 2, always respect others. Rule number 3, mind your own business.
Right.
Yes.
Rule
Right.
rule number 4, don't be a thief. rule number
Oh yeah.
5, and rule number 5 is your word is all you have. Don't break it.
Absolutely.
Rule
Yep.
number 6, don't be a rat.
Right.
Never rat on your friends and never rat on your friends.
Yeah.
Rule number 7: don't spit in the sink.
Yes.
Sink. No sink. Toilet.
No, rule number 8: don't piss on the toilet seat.
No.
Yes.
Oh, yep.
Rule number 9: give your cellmate alone time.
Yep.
Rule
Friday night,
number
date night.
day night. Rule number 10.
Movie night. Movie night.
Rule number 10: know who you associate with.
Oh yeah.
Rule number 11: don't talk about your past sins to any man. It could come back to haunt you in the form of a new indictment.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, that's a big one.
Rule 35.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Rule number 12: don't gamble or use drugs if you can't pay your debts. Rule number 13: do not take part in any homosexual activity. No, rule number 14: never fart in front of someone who is eating or cooking. It
Oh,
could cost you your life.
absolutely. Yep.
Yes.
And rule number 15: no smoking, eating, or drinking with any other race but your own.
Yep.
Yeah.
If
That's I think that's one of the biggest rules that all the gangs share, right? Is that last one you said.
Mm.
And I've never understood that. I mean, I've understood it now that I see how it works in there, but man, I think that's one of the things that causes a lot of the static in prison is that I went in for I'm gonna tell y'all a little background about me and problems I had. I went in and when I was on the streets, I was a blood. I was a sangre. And I
Okay.
hung out with black people and I lived in Kansas City on Prospect and 52nd Street, Kansas City, Missouri, all black neighborhood, all black homies. I thought I was black myself. Like I wore do-rags, nothing but red. I was banging. And when I got to prison, my own homeboys had to tell me, yo, bro, you can't kick it with us. I'm sorry. I know they on
Oh,
the street.
that's a, yeah.
I know on the streets you blooding it up, but in here, I'm sorry, bro. You got to go with your people. So I started looking around, and luckily there was a Latin King dude around there, and he's like, "You're with People Nations, so come over here." So then,
Mm,
so then I had to go through all kinds of stuff to get released and beat down and all kinds of stuff. But since we're from the same nation, I was still accepted as a king. But I
right.
was forced to go into something that I wasn't affiliated with because of the color of my skin.
Right.
and because of prison politics.
Politics.
Exactly, because
That's
of prison politics caused that. So going in, my own brothers, my own blood brothers from Kansas City, people that used to buy a lot of weight for me, and we broke bread on a lot of money, and they were leaving, and they're like, "Man, I wish I could give you my locker, homie, but I can't." And
Yeah.
we were thick as thieves on the street, lived
Yeah.
together. I knew your mama, your grandma. I went to your family cookouts. And when it came time to it in prison, they had to turn their back on me. And that was a wake-up call for me. Was like, dang, bro, this is even if you're affiliated in here, that it don't run. It's all
Yeah.
about at the end of the day, it's about your race.
Color.
Yeah.
It's about your color. And if you could have, I tell people this, you could have a homeboy on the street, say you're Latino and he's black, and you guys kick it hard. You guys are like brothers. You guys are like freaking know each other for years. And you guys come into the prison system and there's a racial riot and you guys are both on the same yard.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
You guys are gonna have to pick sides.
Yeah, and we with the gang I used to be affiliated with, we weren't allowed to partake in racial riots. So being Hispanic, the Mexicans hated us for that, right? And then the blacks, the rival gang members, they hated us because the blacks that were with us wouldn't back them up. And whenever there was a racial riot, we had to take a step back and defend ourselves. And a lot of people can't wrap their head around that in prison. Like, how can you sit there at the dinner table with black people at the table with you? And but they're not black people. I mean, they're black, but they're like Dominican, Puerto Rican, Colombian,
Right.
right? They're Afro-Cuban,
It's different. It's different.
completely different. Yep.
yeah, but they
It's
don't
different
see it. People
Yeah.
in the
see
prison
with
system. Yeah, in the
Oh,
prison
yeah.
system is different.
yeah. So
Yeah.
people just see with their eyes, and then they cast this judgment, right? And granted, we did have African American brothers that they just thought they were Hispanic. They grew up in Hispanic neighborhoods, and they were Latin kings. So,
Mhm.
what about? I mean, I've seen blacks that grew up around Latinos
oh
that
yeah,
Yeah,
hung
there's
out south, that
they can't
hung out
even get in there, right?
Southsiders, that hung
yeah,
out Southsiders.
Yeah.
yeah, I've seen that. See,
Oh
and
yeah.
I've seen
I had
that
a lot.
where down here there was a black guy and his name was Gato,
Hmm.
and he
Yeah.
spoke El Paso's 85% Hispanic. So even if you're African American down here, you still say ay ay way and no
Yeah.
mames and you'll see that the black people down here they act like we do, and
Right.
so it's weird to go in and then be like we can't kick it
Right.
and we can't this and that, and I don't stand for that, and so that was one of the things that did turn me on to the Kings was that they're all inclusive, and I did like that. That I'm like I don't have to pick sides as far as like for my people. And don't get me wrong though, at these little counties and at these transfer centers, I would back up the paisas and I would back up anybody that was Hispanic because that's you it's very different in the counties from going to the prisons, right? And
Right.
Mhm.
and, and, and you gotta back each other up. So
Right.
yeah, my experience was a little I made it rough on myself by the people I choose
Mm.
to affiliate myself with.
Some people make it a little rougher on themselves, and
Themselves. Yeah.
Let me ask
that's
y'all
true.
this. Let me ask, what's your take on every prison I was at? There was a lot of American paisas. So they were riding with the paisas, but they were Americans wanting to ride neutron, basically, right? But they would ride with the paisas. I felt some type of way about that. I really did.
The ones that were like not affiliated that I saw that were running with the Paisas, because to us the Paisas were neutral. It depends on
Yeah.
who you
Depends on
knew,
the
because
yard, right? It
because they talked to everybody. But I've seen the Paisas go off on the Border Brothers before.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because, and I don't know if they were disrespecting them. I don't know if they were taking advantage of them and the Paisas got tired of it or what. But most part, the Paisas were like calm, almost like the Islanders, calm and peaceful with everybody for the most part. But then
Mhm.
again, every once in a while you got that bad apple that's like, nah, we don't want these people in the yard or this and that for whatever reason. Something might have happened on a different yard.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Right. That's big. Yep.
but the more aggressive ones were to me were the Border Brothers,
Order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which actually ran like a gang.
Yeah. Yeah. They have
Yeah.
structure,
Right, right.
tattoos, and all that.
So versus the Paisas were just they were just wanting to do their thing, do their time, and of course they had structure too if something came down to it. But for the most part, I've never had any. Paisas were always they broke a lot of rules. Well, I don't want to say what rules they broke, but there were certain groups of people that broke rules. Some of the rules that I listed, I know why you guys are laughing. Certain groups broke rules that there's no way a Southsider would break, and if they
Yeah.
did break that
Yeah.
rule,
Yeah.
then they would be dealt with
Oh
because there are some no rules that take place, and you're like you shake your head, and you're like, what the hell is going on here?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me, that's
So
one of those things. You know what I mean? Like, especially like because you guys, when you for you guys like the structure is there and it's lived that way. When you see
Yeah.
yeah,
something a different way that's not even accustomed to it, but you in the system, it's like, oh, this is a face I give. Like, oh, I mean,
yeah. And now let me just touch on this in case the audience, some people don't know. We're talking about there's gambling in prison, there's drugs in prison, there's prostitution in prison,
Mhm.
there's I mean and sometimes there's female guards that are prostituting themselves in prison, but most of the prostitution is male prostitutes. I've seen kids come into the system
Yeah.
that had no intentions of being a prostitute or homosexual or giving their bodies up for any type of sexual favors, and I seen them get strung out on heroin.
Mhm.
People intentionally got them strung out, and next thing you know, they're selling their body in
Mhm.
exchange for money, for commissary, for whatever. And these are the type of and these are the type of things that happen in prison when you get involved in using drugs. If you owe somebody money, and you're gambling or you're using drugs or whatever, and you owe them that money, they're gonna want to collect that money one way or another. So either you're gonna become somebody's freaking prostitute, or you're gonna do something to pay that money back.
You're gonna be sending stuff on the outs.
Yeah.
I see
Yeah.
people send Rolex watches, they got to get verified and all that. Sometimes they send fake Rolex watches and get dealt with 8
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
You see them on the yard, man. It's so funny because you'll see them stressing for 8 days. You'll see them, and you know that you're like, that watch was fake. And it's so funny because prison's like Twitter. Something happens, the whole prison knows what's happening.
Yeah.
Right? So
Facebook.
you see this guy walking around, and you're just like, that dude, he's gonna be dead in 8 days' lives. That thing's fake, I bet you. And you see him stressing on the phone, and then you're like, and then he'll start the whole wrap up process, right? He starts borrowing from people, and then you're like, here it comes, and then 8 days he rolls up, or he gets
Yeah.
mad, and you're like,
Or he catches his bed on fire.
oh yeah,
Oh.
oh yeah,
He'll catch his bed on fire, and the goon squad will come and get him and roll him up.
Yeah.
yeah. There's different. All right, you guys,
Yeah.
we're gonna wrap up. We're at a minute. I mean, an hour and 1 minute. That was a great episode. You guys, this is just one of many to come. These conversations with Raymond, with Gordon. We're trying to get Desiree. I was chatting with her as we're having our conversation. I sent her the link, but sister said her hair wasn't done. So next episode, though, we'll have a female's perspective, a strong female at that. She's not just any female. Hands down, a lot of respect for our sister Desiree. We'll have a perspective on all of these fun and amazing, juicy topics that we're talking about, and we'll have her tell us about, because I've never been to female prison. I don't know what it's like in there. I want to know, right? So we'll have Desiree join us, tell us how their politics are, and a little bit of the female prison experience, because I can only imagine the things that go on in there. If men gossip in prison,
Oh, gee.
I could. Oh my gosh, I'm ready to hear these stories from Desiree.
Mhm.
Desiree, you need to get on.
Right.
All right.
But thank you
Raymond.
guys. Thank you guys for coming on.
Hey, thank you for having me again.
All right.
Yeah, no,
Are you-
Raymond, we'll have you on next week. Gordon, go ahead. You want to say something?
Absolutely. I was waiting for Raymond's close, since today he's the co-host.
Oh yeah, you got to do your clothes.
Thank you all for having us on, joining us on Real Talk. I want to thank Gordon. I want to thank Julian for having
Absolutely.
us and sharing their interesting topics. And come and join us next week for another exciting episode with Real Talk, real stories, and real excitement.
Yeah, I like that. All right.
All right, y'all. As always, show your kids you love them. Pray for our country. Pray for the men and women in law enforcement. And till next time, we'll keep it real here on Real Talk, Real Topics.